G'day there, I'm Dana from Puwakaka Valley Homestead. Today we're going to be looking at transplanting your seedlings and how to get them off to the best start. Today's video is brought to you by Sleepless Baby and Crazy Mum here that hasn't had a chance to have a shower. Today we're going to be looking at how to transplant your seedlings once they've come through. I often get asked how I manage to do it all, and the honest to goodness truth is, I don't do it all. I've been up most of the night with this baby. I have slept, well, if you can call it sleep. I've been in the lazy boy chair. He won't sleep lying down because he's got a snotty nose. And the reality is, today I need to get a video done. So he's in the front pack and we're just going to do what we can do. And I'll let you into my dirty little secret. This is my garden along the edge of my lawn. I just don't have time to actually get round to weeding it. To be fair, I have got a baby who likes to eat the dog poop on the lawn, so I don't tend to put him outside too much. But I've actually offered my other kids some money if they could weed it for me, because I just don't have a chance. I did, however, get a chance to weed in the vegetable garden this weekend, so we're going to plant up some seedlings that we sowed a few weeks ago. If you want to watch how to sow seedlings successfully, I'll link it up in the cards above. The seedlings that we sowed in the last video, I actually planted some up yesterday. This is my cold frame, and this is during the summer where I start my seedlings. If you've been growing plants like peppers, capsicums, cucumbers, chilies, tomatoes, zucchinis, pumpkins, any of those things that make fruit, generally speaking, they are very frost sensitive. So the last thing you want to be doing is either starting those outside while you're still getting cold weather and frost. And if you're growing them either in the house or in a hot house or in a tunnel house, you need to be really careful when you start moving them out to transplant them that you don't shock them, because cold shock will kill a plant very quickly. To avoid cold shock on your plants, you really need to slowly introduce them to the outside world, and we call this hardening off. So to harden off your seedlings, what you want to do is to slowly bring them outside for slowly increasing amounts of time each day. How to know when to do this? Well, hopefully before you planted the seedlings, you'd worked out when your frost date was, and you'd sown them sort of 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date. Now that your last frost date's getting close, what you want to do is start bringing those seedlings outside during the day, and only if it's not a freezing cold day. Bring them out, put them somewhere nice and sheltered, out of the raging wind, and out of the scorching sun, somewhere either under a bush that you've got, or under a seed raising table, or just somewhere that's quite sheltered. And put them out there for sort of an hour, 2 hours for the first day, and then tuck them away back inside. And then the next day you can increase it by an hour or two. Just really slowly over the next sort of 10 days or so, 10 days to 14 days, increase the amount of time that it's spending outside each day, until it gets to the point where it's out until quite late in the evening. Once your plants are used to being outside, that's when you can start thinking about actually transplanting them. If you are worried about a late frost, just continue to pop them away inside for the first wee while. It's better to wait and make sure that all the frosts are well and truly past than it is to accidentally get hit by a late frost. So always give yourself quite a bit of wiggle room when you think you know when your last frost date is. Try and do it a little bit, plant them out at least 2 weeks after that. If your seedlings that you're wanting to plant out are not frost tender, things like peas or some of your brassica plants, your kale, broccoli, cabbage, those sorts of things will tolerate quite a bit of frost. if there's some of those sorts of, or even onions, if there's some of those sorts of crops, usually speaking, you can harden them off, but it doesn't matter quite so much when the next frost date, when your last frost date is. So you'll still want to harden them off before you put them outside if you've been raising them inside, but you don't have to worry quite so much about the frost date. So once your plants are all nice and hardened off, what you want to do is get your space all clear of weeds. Make sure there's nothing growing there that you don't want. And what I tend to do is these are my peas that I planted. Some of them got eaten by mice, unfortunately, but anyway, there's 2 there. I'll show you what I'm doing. I've soaked these in some seaweed solution. You can buy that. I'll put a link to the one that I use down below. Just give it a soak. I usually do it from the night before. It just gives them the extra boost of nutrients, and make sure that they're well watered before you go and put them in the ground. Now, if you're going to add any amendments to your soil, this is the time you want to do that as well, if you haven't already done so. If you want to add in some lime, or put a sprinkling of compost on the top, whatever it is that you need to do, now's the time to get it done before you get the seedlings in. Now, if you've used a good quality potting mix, you'll probably find that it's quite friable and doesn't stick together very well, which can make getting the seedlings out, especially if you're quite early at getting them planted, it can be a wee bit difficult. It can just sort of fall apart around the roots. But generally speaking, your plants will transplant better the smaller they are. I usually wait until they have at least their first 2 proper leaves. So the first leaves that come out when a plant hatches, what is it called, when a plant sprouts, they're not true leaves, they're just their seed leaves that they had curled up in their seed. So I usually wait until the first true leaves are out. Sometimes, just because of life, they grow a bit longer, but I'll show you, these are the seedlings that I planted yesterday, and see how small they are. Generally speaking, if you transplant them out while they're smaller, they go through less shock, their roots aren't disturbed quite so much, and they tend to take off faster and grow better.
You're pulling out the weeds.
The first thing you'll want to do is make the holes where you want your seedlings to go. Make sure you check on your seed packet as to how far apart. Oh, there's some pea sprouts in there. We'll just leave them there, I think. Check on your seed packet and see how far apart they recommend how far apart your seedlings should be. These are peas, so I'm planting them underneath this wire support that I've already got here. Bless you, Bubba. And then what you want to do is gently squeeze the bottoms of the tray like this, and that will loosen the soil. And then you can tip it upside down, and hopefully it all comes out. Hopefully it all comes out in a blob like that. Now when you're planting your transplants, you don't want the soil to come too far up. You don't want to rot out the plant. But you do want to make sure that the original seed soil was covered. So just cover it like that and then firm it down. Same thing again, and you can see the roots have popped out the bottom. Whoops, you can see the roots have popped out the bottom there. That was because we had them growing in that tray of water. It doesn't matter if a few of those roots break off, they'll recover pretty quickly. And you can see this one here, it's all kind of podging apart. And that's okay, you just stick as much as you can in there. The next step once your plants are in is to give them a good water. These are some lettuce plants that I planted about 3 weeks ago. They're coming along really well. Once your seedlings are in, you just need to keep them watered, really well watered, for the next couple of days. Keep an eye out for any really cold temperatures, and if it's particularly cold, you can throw like a frost fleece sort of thing over the top of them to protect them just in case. The last thing you want after all that hard work is to lose your plants to the frost. So the best way with watering your plants is to water them every day for the first week, and then every other day for the next week. And by then they should be pretty well established, and you can probably revert just down to doing it a couple of times a week. Unless of course you've had some decent rain, in which case you won't need to water them at all. Your seedling transplants will probably benefit also from a decent layer of mulch. We like to use our grass clippings on our garden beds as our mulch. These are great, they break down really quickly, they feed the worms, and they help keep the weeds down. If you don't have grass clippings that you can use, things like straw, or I wouldn't recommend hay, it tends to have too many seeds in it. Straw usually is quite good. You can use even your chopped up weeds that you had, as long as it doesn't have seeds in them. I've also been known to use wood mulch. My arm's getting tired holding the camera. Wood mulch is a really good option for mulching your garden, the vegetable gardens. I really like it, especially if you follow the back to Eden method. It has a noisy baby. The back to Eden method uses a lot of wood mulch, and I find it really beneficial. Compost is another thing you can mulch it with. Just something to help keep the moisture in, help keep the soil temperature even. And also to keep the weeds down. Any weed competition is not great. It can steal that nutrients from your seedlings. So if you can, mulch around your plants. If you're mulching with grass clippings, you only want to keep it a maximum of a couple of inches deep, and you want to keep them well away from your actual seedlings. Grass clippings can mat down and keep out the moisture. They can also sometimes attract slugs. And also, if you've noticed, grass clippings often heat up while they're decomposing, which is the last thing you want your seedlings to get caught up in. However, it does make a really good soil amendment, and it keeps the weeds at bay. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. We'd love it if you'd subscribe to our channel. We release videos twice a week on growing and preserving your own food. And we'll see you in the next video.